Hello and welcome to our video on Apple, the company that changed the tech industry forever. From its humble beginnings in a garage to becoming one of the most valuable tech companies in the world, we're going to explore the story of Apple, its incredible success, and some surprising facts you might not have known. Apple was founded in 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. The company started in a small garage in Los Altos, California, with the aim of creating personal computers that would change the world. And they did just that. In 1984, Apple released the Macintosh, which was the first personal computer to feature a graphical user interface. This innovation set the standard for modern computing and paved the way for the success that Apple would experience in the coming decades. Believe it or not, Steve Jobs actually had a few different ideas for what he wanted to name his company, and one of those ideas was Janus Computers. Now, you might be wondering, what does Janus mean and why did Steve Jobs choose that name? Well, Janus is actually the name of a Roman god who was often depicted with two faces. One face looked back into the past, while the other face looked forward into the future. Steve Jobs thought that this was a really cool concept, and he believed that Janus Computers would be the perfect name for a company that was creating products for the future. However, Steve's business partner, Steve Wozniak, wasn't a fan of the name Janus Computers. He thought that it was too complicated and hard to remember, and he ultimately convinced Steve Jobs to go with a different name instead. So, after much deliberation, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak decided to name their company Apple, because Jobs was a fan of fruitarian diets, which involve eating mostly fruits, nuts, and seeds. Another reason is in his stay in Apple Orchard he thought the name was fun and calming. Another surprising fact about Apple is that the company was almost called Megaforce instead. Steve Jobs was inspired by a trip to an apple orchard and he was in fruits-only diet, so he decided that the name, Apple, and logo of a bitten apple would be a better fit for the company. And the rest is history. Apple's success didn't stop with the Macintosh. In 2001, they introduced the iPod, a revolutionary device that changed the way we listen to music. The iPod was followed by the iPhone in 2007, which revolutionized the smartphone industry. Today, Apple is one of the most valuable companies in the world, with a market capitalization of over $2 trillion. But did you know that Apple almost went bankrupt in the late 1990s? In 1985, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he co-founded, due to disagreements with the board of directors over the direction of the company. Jobs had been pushing for the development of the Macintosh computer, but the board was more focused on profitability and wanted to continue producing the Apple II. After his departure from Apple, Jobs founded a new company called Next, which produced high-end computers for the education and business markets. Next was eventually acquired by Apple in 1997 and Steve Jobs eventually returned to the company in 1997 and made sweeping changes to turn things around. One of the most significant changes was the introduction of the iMac, a colorful desktop computer that was a hit with consumers. Jobs also focused on creating a cohesive brand identity for Apple, which included the iconic Think Different ad campaign. That's all for today's video on Apple. We hope you learned something new about this iconic company and its journey to success. Remember to keep these lessons in mind when creating your own brand and products. Innovate, focus on branding, and prioritize design. Thanks for watching.